We have breaking news. There's always breaking news. Donald Trump did it. I know what you're thinking. Did what? What did he do now? No, Donald Trump did it. He said he would, and he did, and now it's happening. There's a deal. Hamas has made a deal with it. There's a ceasefire, which includes hostage release. Remember, Donald Trump said, you gotta release these hostages. You've got till January 20th, which TikTok, it's coming. It's coming. We got 1, 2, 3, like 4 more days. 4 days to spare. There's only 4 days before January 20th. That was the deadline set forth by Donald Trump. And he said, you got to release these hostages or there will be, quote, all hell to pay. And I guess Hamas said, okay, we don't have a lot of hell in our hell account. So we can't actually pay all that much hell. So we should just release these hostages. President Donald Trump announcing on Truth Social. Oh, let me make this so you can read it. Hold on. Let me pull it down here a little bit. There we go. We have a deal for the hostages in the Middle East. They will be released shortly. Thank you. With an exclamation point. That came in at 12:01, just minutes before we began our live broadcast. It's minutes. I was all set to talk about Pam Bondi being a bad mamma jamma and slamming these Senate Democrats without them even knowing it. Pam Bondi, Dick Durbin is such a ridiculous guy. He doesn't even know that he got his fanny handed to him by Pam Bondi live on national television. We'll point it out to him. I already tweeted at him. I was like, dude, you don't even know. You don't even know what you got bloodied. You got bloodied by Bondi live in front of the entire world, and it was fantastic, and I was there for it. They're on break, by the way, right now. They're taking a lunch break, then they're going to come back for the second part. But I've watched a handful of these confirmation hearings in my time, and I've never seen one I've never seen anybody so perfect for a job, so handle these people so perfectly the way Pam Bondi has. She is calm, cool, collected. She has all the answers. She knows what to say. And she, like I said, she can manipulate these people without them even knowing it. And it's really incredible. It's really fun to watch. Also exciting is that Crazy Mazie Hirono, who you may remember from the confirmation hearing yesterday with Pete Hegseth, is also on the Senate Judiciary Committee. I don't know how Crazy Mazie Hirono gets all these great committee positions. Also, Blumenthal, I know how he does. He's 100 years old. That's why he's on all these committees. But we'll bring you some of the highlights because there were some highlights there. And I'm not just saying that Mazie Hirono was high, although it seems like there's some, I don't know what's wrong with that woman. I don't know if it's been, I've met people from Hawaii before. They seem very intelligent. They seem, they seem okay. But Mazie Hirono does not seem okay. There's something, I don't know if someone slipped something in her poi. I don't know what's going on, but that woman's crazy. Anyway, we're going to bring you the highlights, like I said, from that here in just a minute. I'm trying to figure out why I can't watch myself on Rumble. So we're gonna figure that one out here in just a minute because I would like to watch myself on Rumble. Anyway, in the meantime, thank you so much for watching on whatever platform you're on. If you're on YouTube, that's great. Thank you for being here. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you're on Rumble, again, make sure that you subscribe on Rumble. And if you're listening to any of our podcast pages, we want to make sure that you're telling those podcast platforms, hey, I love this content and I want to hear it every single day. So please keep delivering to me. Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Now, before we get to the Bondi stuff and the Marco Rubio stuff, because Marco Rubio is also in front of a Senate subcommittee today. Oh, and John Ratcliffe, who, important job, by the way. John Ratcliffe is on, he's in the Senate subcommittee. He's up for CIA director. Very important job, like extremely important job. And we talk a lot about the FBI. We talk a lot about the DOJ, but the CIA has got to be in the right hands at the right and overseen by the right people. And I want to bring you, John Ratcliffe said something which I think is really impressive, and I want to share that with you as well. But before we get to all of that, let's talk about what's going on tonight. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. will be giving a farewell address. He'll be giving he's on like a goodbye tour. Joe Biden, this morning, Joe Biden released a farewell letter about his administration. I have a copy of it. There it is. It's an F. That's the letter. Joe Biden's letter summing up his administration. It's the letter F, folks. There you go. Stands for fail. Stands for FJB. Anyway, but that's so. And then tonight he's announced that he is having a farewell address to the nation at 8:00 p.m. and we'll be bringing you that live. So if it's 8:00 p.m. and you're like, I got nothing else, there's no football on, there's no playoff games, nothing like that, then you can join us here. We'll be live streaming. We'll probably start about 7:30ish. I would think maybe about 7:30 would be a good time to start, and then I have to check with the wife, of course. And then, of course, we'll bring you the live address and we'll bring our commentary, and then we'll comment a little bit about it afterward as well. So Joe Biden giving his farewell. And again, this is like the last time, hopefully, we'll have to hear from this guy. I would imagine. I don't think this is like Madonna's farewell tour that I dropped, way too much money on 20 years ago. And then, oops, she came back 10 years later for another farewell tour. I don't think it's going to be like that. I don't think it's, and yes, I know, I just admitted to going to a Madonna concert, but it was like the 90s. Everyone was going to the Madonna concert. I was like, that's all there was to do. It was Madonna or New Kids on the Block. Those were my two. I think I went to that concert. That was a good concert. What was I talking about? Oh yeah. But anyway, so we've got that going on tonight. I think this will be the last time we ever have to hear from Joe Biden. So we should probably all enjoy that together. Yesterday, Joe Biden did a couple things. First of all, Joe Biden, it's really time for him to go because he forgot how to sign legislation. I don't know if you saw this, but Joe Biden was attempting to sign some legislation and he forgot what he was supposed to do and what the date was.
Establishment of the Highlands National Monument. Here we go. Got to fill this in. I know, Santino, I'm trying. Why, the day of, in this hand, you'll fill in the dates here, guys? All right. The 14th, sir. No, I know that, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is a guy who signed multiple of these bills and executive orders and whatnot, and now all of a sudden, just days before he leaves the White House, he forgets how it's all done. He lied about his record, too. He went out there. He was given a farewell address to the State Department. Listen to what he said about the state of the world under his presidency, under his 4 years as president.
Compared to 4 years ago, America is stronger. Our alliances are stronger. Our adversaries and competitors are weaker. We have not gone to war to make these things happen. During my presidency, I've increased America's power at every dimension. We increased our diplomatic power.
I mean, I don't know. I guess, maybe there's a lot of Hollywood fiction writers that are out of work, so he tapped a couple of them. There's not one thing in that statement that is true. Not one thing. But I guess what are you going to do? It's not like he has anything else to lose at the time. He could get up there. He could get up there and literally just spout all kinds of lies, and nobody could do anything about it to take him to task because, first of all, he's old as dirt. And second of all, his political career is over. His 5-decade political career. This is a guy who since the 70s, I was born, fun fact, in 1974, I was born when Joe Biden first went to Washington, D.C. Okay. And this guy has been in Washington, D.C. sucking on the taxpayers' teat for as long as I've been alive. And finally, it took Donald Trump returning to office to finally get him out of there. And I for one say, good riddance. We appreciate you leaving. I don't really appreciate anything you've done, but I definitely appreciate you leaving. Oh, by the way, the people are all up in arms about this inauguration too, because you may remember that Jimmy Carter died. Sad. And when Jimmy Carter died, they put the flags at half mast. Hold on, let me pull up the iPad here. They put the flags at half mast, and Donald Trump and a couple other people were like, we should raise it up for the inauguration. Well, in Texas, Greg Abbott said he's going to raise the flags for the inauguration and then bring them back down on the following day. Ron DeSantis just yesterday, on January 14th, announced that the inauguration Flag Day order has gone out in Florida. On Inauguration Day, the flag will be at full staff, and then it will be lowered again. We'll take a little reprieve. And then Speaker Mike Johnson, finally, I don't know where this guy's been. Speaker Mike Johnson said on January 20th, the flags at the Capitol will fly at full staff to celebrate our country coming together behind the inauguration of the 47th President Donald Trump. The flags will be lowered back to half staff the following day to continue honoring President Carter. Seems like a fair compromise. The dead president, he gets the flag for the whole month, except on the one day when the new living president is taking the oath of office. I think we can raise him back up. And then after that, we'll go back to lowering him for the dead president. And I know the Democrats are like, well, he's supposed to get 30 days, but now he's only going to get 29. Well, he only got 4 years in office. So let's be honest. I think 30 days is that's a long time to lower those flags. to have to, but again, it's not my whole thing. So anyway, so Joe Biden talking tonight. We'll bring that to you live. Make sure you're subscribed. If you want to watch it, make sure you're subscribed and hit those notifications too, because that way you'll be able to get the information as soon as we go live. Pow, we'll be right there on your phone and in your face, and we'll be talking about all this stuff. JD Vance, I think, by the way, summed it up really well on the Sunday shows when he was talking about the dumpster fire. That I don't know if you saw this, but JD Vance on the Sunday shows is my favorite thing. In fact, I think that the vice president of the United States, at least as long as it's JD Vance, should have to appear on the Sunday shows every week. I think we should just give him a Sunday show. You know, this is a big thing, and I've been talking to all of my friends in Congress, and I explain to them, I go, you guys don't understand. You've got to harness the power of social media. You've got to harness the power of the internet. You don't realize you don't need the TV people. You don't need the radio, you know, the libs in the radio. They hate you anyway. I don't know why you ever want to go on these radio stations. They all hate, no one likes you. The TV stations, they're just trying to get a sound. They're going to edit you into oblivion. What you want to do is you want to have a direct line of communication to the people. Donald Trump did this with Twitter years ago. In the past few years, Ted Cruz, for example, has a podcast, The Verdict with Ted Cruz. Don't listen to that one. Listen to this one. I'm not pimping Ted Cruz's podcast, although it is pretty good. And I know his co-host, he's a really great guy. But anyway, that's the first thing. Then Matt Gaetz, our good buddy Matt Gaetz, when he was congressman, had a podcast and a Rumble. He was on Rumble. He's got a 24-hour Rumble channel. I don't know if it's still up, but he would go into his office and he would live stream on Rumble. And I was on his show. It was great. We had a blast. He was on my show. It was great. And he could go directly to the people. And when he would vote on something, or when he would go into the Congress and say, I hereby order the vacation of the House of Representatives, Speaker of the House, and Kevin McCarthy go home. When he does all that, he can just go into his office, fire up the camera, and explain to everybody why he did it. If he voted one way on a bill and he starts getting reamed for it on social media, he can go in and say, guys, here's why I voted this way on the bill. And, AOC has done a great job of this, unfortunately, with the left. And she's raised herself up to superstardom. Oh, one of my favorites is Representative Tim Burchett, which, you know what? Let's check in. Let's check in with Tim Burchett real quickly, because he does these videos all the time.
Burchett, enjoying the rest of my PB&J.
Oh, he's eating his PB&J.
Something kind of funny happened the other day. I was in my office doing an interview. I think it was Sunday night. I think it was on Fox, actually.
Fox, okay.
And dadgummit, it was cold.
Dadgummit.
They don't have any heat in my office. The heaters are busted, so I got sweet little unit right there. If you can see it.
Yeah.
And I was on Fox, and I was wearing my Storm and Norman's sweatshirt, hoodie, as I said, something from the Senator Fetterman collection. My buddies at Ball Market flushed me up with that a couple of Christmases ago. Anyway, I apologized to him on Fox. I said that I didn't have any heat in the dadgum building or in my office.
Dadgummit.
And oddly enough, the staff here at the Longworth building saw me on Fox and sent somebody up to fix my dadgum heater. So I thought that was pretty cool. The only problem is now it's got some funky smell coming out of it. I'm not sure if it's dead mice in there cooking or what, but I guess it's better than being cold. Anyway, thought y'all'd enjoy that. So Fox News, if you're watching, thank you for getting my heaters fixed. Thank y'all for sending me here.
Okay, so this is how he's. You know what? I just realized what he said. I just realized where I've heard his voice before. Tim Burchett sounds exactly like Sling Blade, doesn't he? Dadgummit, just up here eating my PB&J. It's cold, dadgummit. And then I'm wearing my hoodie, my Fetterman collection. Dadgummit. Anyway, and now aside from the bad cropping and the fact that he's in the lower half of the screen instead of, appropriately placed in the upper third, which is all the stuff you learn when you go to film school like I did. But anyway, aside from that, Tim Burchett is entertaining. He's staying in touch with people. It's a great little story about how Fox News, the people that fixed the heaters on Fox News, watched him on Fox News. They were probably upset that he called them out, and one of their bosses was like, you got to go up there and fix that dadgum heater right now, or Sling Blade's going to take a sling blade to your head. And so that's kind of, but that's exciting. And I think that it really adds something to our congressmen and our senators and that kind of stuff. And I think that the people that do that and embrace it really do a great job. Rest assured that when I primary John Rutherford in Florida's District 5 in August of 2026, by the way, August 18th, 2026 is primary day. If you live in District 5, you want to put that on your calendar, vote for Mark Kaye on primary day. August 18th, 2026. When I do that, rest assured, I'm not giving up this. This is going to happen. We may have to change the time. It may be an early morning or a late night kind of thing, probably an early morning, but this is going to happen. Probably even, you're probably going to see me even more, because you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go into these meetings, and I'm going to go into these, you know, what do you call it? These sessions, and I'm going to be talking to people, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to fire up the camera and be like, okay, guys, listen, here's exactly what happened today in your government. Here's exactly from inside the belly of the beast. Here's what's going on in this joint, and I want to be completely transparent. I had a meeting with this person, and here's what they told me. And then I went and had a meeting with this person, and they told me that. And then I went into the committee meeting, and you know what happened? Both of those people lied. And that's exactly what I'm going to do, because I don't care about them. I only care about you. August 18th, 2026. Mark Kaye, Florida District 5. All right, so back to what's going on. So a lot of these people, I think, really need to take advantage of this. J.D. Vance does a great job, and I would love for J.D. Vance to have his own TV show, you know, Vice President Weekly or like VP Week. I would watch it. Here's what he said this weekend on the Sunday show.
I wish Joe Biden all the best, but the fact is he has left us dumpster fire, not just at the border, but also with the economy. First of all, we know that prices are way too high for many Americans. We have to work every single day to stabilize prices for American families. But Shannon, everything that he's bragging about ignores the fact that he has added trillions and trillions of dollars to the federal debt during a time of peace. He has left us with bond yields, meaning how are we going to finance that debt? We have to sell Treasury bonds. And the Treasury bonds have gotten more expensive because of Joe Biden's policies. So you go issue after issue. Oil prices are now shooting through the roof in the final 2 months of Joe Biden's administration, in part because of decisions that Joe Biden has made over the last few weeks. He actually hasn't left the American people in good economic condition. That's why they made Donald J. Trump the president-elect of the United States. So we've got a lot of work to do. I remain fundamentally, and you know this, Shannon, I'll always be an optimist about our country, but I think that optimism has to start with a bit of realism. And the real truth is that Joe Biden has left us a dumpster fire. Donald Trump is going to have to put it out, but he's good at doing that.
Dumpster fire. President Trump's going to have to put it out. We went from trash truck to fire engine. What Donald Trump's going to have to do now is he's going to have to put on the fire gear, you know, maybe one of those jackets that was too big for David Muir, and he's going to have to roll into Washington, D.C. on a fire truck now and put out the dumpster fire that Joe Biden created. That's why in his farewell letter, we give him a big red F. And that's exactly right. Donald Trump's going to come in. Donald Trump's going to have to fix a bunch of stuff, and Donald Trump is going to have to do it pretty quickly. And he's going to have to assemble a team that's going to help him do it. And that team is being assembled right now. And one of the people that I'm really thrilled about is Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi today, you know, I'm from Florida, so I'm quite familiar with Pam Bondi and her work, and I'm quite familiar with her work as Attorney General. I watched Pam Bondi during the first Donald Trump impeachment hearing, where she was hand-selected to defend Donald Trump as part of his defense team and did a bang-up job. And that's one of the reasons, I'm sure, why she finds herself in this position now. Being from Florida, being a staunch advocate for President Donald Trump, being someone who defended him really, really well, and now somebody who can go out there and say, look, we know what needs to be done. And we know what the problem is, and we're going to fix it. And the DOJ will not be weaponized again. In fact, that was there were two big issues that the Democrats faced here. One of them was they were, and I feel bad for them. I don't, they made their own bed. But the Democrats have this horrible task with Pam Bondi's hearing here. They had to try to figure out a way to convince people that Donald Trump was going to weaponize the government against his political adversaries, and that Pam Bondi was going to help him. And that the difficulty in that task is that's exactly what the Democrats did. And Pam Bondi was very, very quick to point that out to him. Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island probably looked like one of the biggest fools when he asked Pam Bondi that exact question. Listen to her answer.
It would not be appropriate for a prosecutor to start with a name and look for a crime. It's a prosecutor's job to start with a crime and look for a name, correct?
Senator, I think that is the whole problem with the weaponization that we have seen the last 4 years and what's been happening to Donald Trump. They targeted Donald Trump. They went after him, actually starting back in 2016. They targeted his campaign. They have launched countless investigations against him. That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. Senator, we've got to bring this country back together. We've got to move forward, or we're going to lose our country.
Or we're going to lose our country, says Pam Bondi. This guy, Sheldon Whitehouse, literally looks at her and goes, as a prosecutor, you should not pick a name and then look for a crime. You should find a crime and then seek out the name of the perpetrator. Isn't that correct? Well, yeah, duh. Guess what Joe Biden did? He did exactly what you think she's going to do. Joe Biden and the Democrats picked a name. That name was Donald J. Trump. And once they had targeted on Donald J. Trump because they knew he could run for another 4 years as president, they knew he was going to be the front runner for the Republican Party, and they knew that he was going to do anything he could to win that nomination and the election. And they knew that they had a weak candidate. They knew back then that Joe Biden couldn't run against Donald Trump successfully. They knew back then that it was a lost cause. They knew back then that Joe Biden was getting weaker and feebler and more demented by the day, and that he would have the floor would be mopped, proverbially, with Joe Biden. And we all saw that in the first debate where Joe Biden got forced out immediately afterward by, well, his own friends and cohorts. Nancy Pelosi, Barack Obama, Chuck Schumer. They all stabbed those knives in his back, and he turned around and goes, et tu, Barack. And then Barack just, kicked him in the face, and they shoved him out, and Kamala rolled on in and really sealed the deal for Donald Trump. But basically, that's exactly what they did. They said, Donald Trump is the name. Now go find a crime. Donald Trump is the target. Go find something, anything. Go to Atlanta, go to Georgia, and try to find out if he worked with Brad Raffensperger and try to figure out if he did something there. Go to New York. Let's pin him on whatever we can. Get that E. Jean Carroll crazy person with the cat named Vagina. Drum up something with her. Stormy Daniels. Where's that rat? Cohen. Drag him in here. Threaten him with something. We'll go to Florida. Let's raid his house. Let's raid Mar-a-Lago. Let's do whatever we can. We've got the name. Donald Trump is the guy. Now we need to peg the crime on him. And Sheldon Whitehouse is asking Pam Bondi about that. She goes, you're right. It should be the opposite way, unlike it has been with Joe Biden. Oops. Oopsie. Amy Klobuchar asked her something similar. Amy Klobuchar said, are you going to do whatever President Trump tells you to? Kind of like Merrick Garland did for Joe Biden.
You will provide an insurance to every member of this committee that the Justice Department will only follow the facts and the law, and the White House will play no role in cases investigated or brought?
Senator, it will be my job, if confirmed as Attorney General, to make those decisions. Politics will not play a part. I've demonstrated that my entire career as a prosecutor, as Attorney General, and I will continue to do that if you confirm me as the 87th Attorney General of the United States of America.
She's way too good for these people. This whole morning is, it's like they always say you should spend time with people who are above your station or smarter than you or richer than you or more successful than you, because that way they bring you up. Pam Bondi is bringing up the pedigree of everybody in that room. There's senators sitting on that dais, and they have no business being in the same room with somebody that has her professional experience and her professionalism. One of them is Dick Durbin, who, this guy, again, I don't know if it's that he's old. Oh, and by the way, something else that really annoys me about all these people, and I've heard it now. I heard it yesterday in Pete Hegseth's hearing, and I heard it today in Pam Bondi's, and I'm sure hear it in others. You get these people up there, and they're octogenarians, and they're sitting there, and they start off, okay? They start off by saying something along the lines of, I've been here 20 years, and this is my 19th confirmation hearing, and I've confirmed people for 4-5 different administrations, all dating back to Bush, the first one. And you're like, why? That's not a good thing. That's not the way it's supposed to be. That's bad. What you're saying is you went to Washington to be a career politician. You're part of the problem, and that you refuse to leave because you're not qualified to do anything else. If you've been there and you've confirmed, someone was it, I forget who it was yesterday that said, I've now confirmed. You'll be my 5th Secretary of Defense that I've confirmed. You got to go, man. I mean, this is why we need term limits. We don't need these same people asking these same ridiculous questions, trying to play politics over and over again. We don't need the same people in there making the same decisions and trying to figure out who's qualified to be in office. We need new, fresh, young blood. Don't ever get up there and tell me, oh, I've been here for 25 years. I've done this 19 times. It's not a good thing. You're making yourself look like an idiot. Kind of like Dick Durbin, Dick Durbin wanted to ask about the phone call with Brad Raffensperger and Donald Trump, where Donald Trump said something along the lines of, find me the votes. You may remember that one. Listen to how Pam Bondi turned the tables on him, and I don't even think he realized it.
He said to the Georgia Secretary of State, find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that and may have been taken out of context.
It was an hour long. And
right.
You can certainly listen to it. I hope you will.
I'm pretty sure she's heard it. I'm pretty sure that she heard it when she was representing the president in his impeachment hearings. She said, he goes, find me the votes. Find me the votes. That's 4 words. And she goes, do you have the rest of the phone call? Because I'm sure it was longer. He goes, oh, it was. It was an hour. Not realizing that he's just made himself look like an idiot because he's paraphrasing 4 words out of an hour-long phone call. And she did that.
He said to the Georgia Secretary of State, find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that and may have been taken out of context.
It was an hour long.
Right.
And you can certainly listen to it. I hope you will.
I mean, she actually says to him, she goes, it was 3 words, find 11,000 whatever it was votes. That's 3. Find 1,107 votes. 3 words out of an hour-long phone call. And she literally says to him, I think that was taken out of context. And he says it was. Term limits. We need them. Like yesterday. Dick Durbin should not be in the Senate. Dick Durbin should not be on that. He should not be the ranking member. He doesn't even understand when the script is being flipped on him, and he's made to look like a fool in front of God and everybody. Another question that he asked her was about January 6th and the rioters. And again, this is I don't know if anyone here listening or watching the show is ever going to be up in front of the Senate for a confirmation hearing. Maybe one day you will. Maybe we have a future attorney general in our midst. Maybe a Kayetriot out there one day will be transportation secretary or secretary of state. I don't know. Look, Kayetriots are very smart and capable people, and they're patriotic, hence the name. So I would love for anyone in our audience, anyone listening, anyone who follows me to appear for such a prestigious position in front of the Senate. And if you do, I think you should watch this clip, because this to me is the master class at how to handle yourself in front of a biased dais of liberals.
Do you believe that the January 6 rioters who've been convicted of violent assaults on police officers should be pardoned?
Senator, if confirmed as Attorney General of the United States, the pardons, of course, fall under the president. But if asked to look at those cases, I will look at each case and advise on a case-by-case basis, just as I did my entire career as a prosecutor.
You also advise the president on pardons as part of your responsibility as Attorney General. And so I'm asking you, do you believe that those who've been convicted of the January 6 riot, violent assaults on our police officers, should be pardoned? That's a simple question.
So, Senator, I have not seen any of those files, of course. If confirmed and if asked to advise the president, I will look at each and every file. But let me be very clear in speaking to you. I condemn any violence on a law enforcement officer in this country.
And by the way, it's not that simple a question, because each case is different, and any lawyer knows that. The circumstances of a case need to be looked at as a whole. The circumstances of a case need to be looked at individually. You can't blanket wrap up every single case. And again, the brilliant part of that statement was when she said, of course. I have not seen any of those cases, of course, meaning, right? Like, clearly you understand that I don't know any of those cases. Of course, those little nuances, those little turns of phrase, those are the ones that really make these people look ridiculous. Something else that they wanted to harp on a lot. Was they wanted to talk about Joe Biden and whether or not he is the legitimate president of the United States of America. And this is, I thought we'd moved past this. I thought this was all done. But apparently this is still one of their litmus tests. They have a litmus test, and CNN used to do it. Jake Tapper used to do it before he interviewed any Republican on his show. He would ask them, before we talk about, women and men's or men and women's sports, I'd like to ask you, is Joe Biden the legitimate president of the United States? And depending on how they answered that would determine how the rest of the interview went. And they're still harping on it with Pam Bondi. And Durbin asked her about that as well.
Do you have any doubts that Joe Biden had the majority of votes, electoral votes, necessary to be elected president in 2020?
Senator, all I can tell you as a prosecutor is from my firsthand experience. And I accept the results. I accept, of course, that Joe Biden is president of the United States. But what I can tell you is what I saw firsthand when I went to Pennsylvania as an advocate for the campaign. I was an advocate for the campaign, and I was on the ground in Pennsylvania, and I saw many things there. But do I accept the results? Of course I do. Do I agree with what happened? And I saw so much, no one from either side of the aisle should want there to be any issues with election integrity in our country. We should all want our elections to be free and fair, and the rules and the laws to be followed.
I think that question deserved a yes or no, and I think the length of your answer is an indication that you weren't prepared to answer yes.
Right, she literally answered yes. What? I mean, I don't even understand what that means. She said, yes, I accept the results. Yes, Joe Biden is the president. Yes, she said it like 4 times. And he goes, that was a yes or no question. And I think that you took so long. I think you weren't prepared to answer yes. I don't even know what that means. I don't think he knows what it means either. I think that was one of those. I think it was one of those. It was like the Jagoff question from yesterday. It was meant to be a trap, and he thought he set the trap, and then he stepped in it himself. And now Dick Durbin is stuck in this. He had no idea what to do, so he just had to get out of there. Crazy Mazie Hirono from Hawaii, which again, if there's anyone listening from Hawaii, if there's anyone in Hawaii, I don't know, I don't have the stats on where everybody is. I know we have a ton of people that watch from Florida. I know we have a ton of people that watch from Oklahoma. Lots of folks in Ohio. All the Kayetriots left over that were displaced when the liberals fired me from my radio show. I know we've got all of those people all over the country, and I appreciate you watching. I don't know if there's anyone watching from Hawaii, but if there is, first of all, aloha. Second of all, what the hell is wrong with you people? 1.5 million people in Hawaii, and Mazie Hirono is who you send to Washington, D.C. Maybe that's why. You know what? I think I just answered my own question. Maybe you're sitting there going, maybe you're on your island, and you're like, yo, that Mazie Hirono is crazy. She's nutty. She's just nuts. We got to get her out of here. How do we do that? I know. Let's elect her to the Senate, and then we'll have to send her to Washington. How far away is Washington? Washington, D.C. is like one of the farthest places away, I think, from Hawaii. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe you guys in Hawaii elected Mazie Hirono so you wouldn't have to deal with her on the island anymore. That makes sense to me. Hang on, let me just ask Siri here real quick because I want to get clarification on that. Hey, Siri, how far is it from Honolulu to Washington, D.C. by miles? 4,829 miles. Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense to me. Now I get it. Now I get why Mazie Hirono's in the Senate for Hawaii, because you Hawaiians didn't want to deal with her at all. You're like, we got to get this crazy lunatic off of our island. We're going to elect her senator, and we're going to send her 4,871 miles away to Washington, D.C. That makes sense. Anyway, Hirono, Mazie Hirono asked her about it too. And I want you to pay very close attention to A, how Pam Bondi answered the question, and B, what Mazie Hirono said after Pam Bondi answered the question.
Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the president of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. it's disturbing that you can't give voice to that fact. Moving on to DOJ's independence.
I mean, I feel like she literally answered the question. Joe Biden is the president of the United States of America. And Mazie Hirono, I guess Mazie Hirono, if she's not going to listen to herself, how are we supposed to listen to her? She also talked about some other things, and Pam Bondi used the opportunity to really paint a picture of Mazie Hirono for who she is. First of all, I didn't know this, but Pam Bondi met with every senator, because, you know, they make a big deal about meeting beforehand. The Judiciary Committee, everybody gets a meeting with these potential nominees. Pete Hegseth went around, he met with all the Republicans, he ignored all the Democrats. And why did he do that? There's two reasons, and I'll get to that in just a minute. But Pam Bondi went around and met with everybody, Democrat and Republican, except for Mazie Hirono. And we found out why in Pam Bondi's answer to this ridiculous question.
That you, as Attorney General, should investigate one of his perceived political enemies. Would you do so?
Senator Hirono, I wish you had met with me. Had you met with me, we could have discussed many things and gotten to know.
I am listening to you now. Could you respond to the question?
Yeah, you were the only one who refused to meet with me, Senator.
Whoa, what? You were the only, Mazie Hirono was the only one who refused to meet with Pam Bondi? What? I feel like that should disqualify her. Look, I understand Pete Hegseth not wanting to meet with the Democrats. Why? Two reasons. Number one, not one of them was going to vote for him. It's a waste of time. Not one Democrat on that panel yesterday. Not crazy Christy Gillibrand. Not crazy Mazie Hirono. She's everywhere, this woman. Not any of them. Not Tammy Duckworth. None of the women on that committee, the Democratic women, none of the Democrats, period, on that committee are going to vote for Pete Hegseth. Meeting with them beforehand would be a waste of his time. Also, when they started questioning him, they didn't have any answers to any questions because they hadn't met with him. So they had less time to answer their questions or ask their questions. All the Republicans, they had all the answers they needed. So they went in there and they heaped praise on him, that kind of thing. It's a brilliant strategy. You don't meet with the Democrats so that they can't get as many questions answered, because in the Senate subcommittee meeting, in the confirmation hearing, they're limited to 7 minutes. But in the office, they could ask you questions all day long. You don't want that. You want them to be limited. So that makes sense. With Pam Bondi, she met with everybody. She went to everybody. She had nothing to hide, nothing to fear. And Mazie Hirono said, no, I'm not going to meet with you. That to me should be disqualifying. I get that candidates shouldn't have to meet with everybody, but the Judiciary Committee should. And that it's unspeakable that she should not meet with her. But then let's go on.
What we would have discussed is that it is the job of the Attorney General to
I'm very
follow
happy to listen
the
to
law.
your responses under oath, Ms. Bondi. So I think it's really important to us that the Attorney General be independent of the White House. And you have a president-elect who considers the AG's office his law firm. I would like to know whether if the president suggests, hints, asks, that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived enemies.
Whoa, what was that? Was the boy repeating on her? What happened there?
Senator, I certainly have not heard the president say that. But what I will tell you is 2/3 of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice. And it's statements like that, I believe,
Ms.
that make
Bondi.
people continue to lose faith. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, it will be my job
Getting
to
on
not
to my
only
next
keep
question,
America
you're not
safe,
responding.
but restore integrity to that department.
Why don't we
and that's
move
what
on
I
to
plan
something
on
that
doing
you said?
every single day as Attorney General.
On
Yeah,
August
this was a recurring theme, by the way. They wanted to pin her on two things. Number one, they wanted to make her look like she was denying Joe Biden was the president. And number two, they wanted to make her look like she was just going to be Donald Trump's puppet and act in a way that he wanted her to act and prosecute anyone he wanted her to prosecute. They asked about Jack Smith. Are you going to go after Jack Smith? Are you? Is he one of the bad guys? Because you said you're going to prosecute the bad prosecutors and investigate the bad investigators. Who are the bad prosecutors and who are the bad investigators? Well, A, I think they already know. That's why they asked the question. And B, you're going to have to wait to find out now, won't you? You're just going to have to wait till you're going to have to wait till Pam Bondi's first day at work, and then you'll find out who the bad prosecutors are and who the bad investigators are. But I'm pretty sure you already know. We know. You know. We all know. Everybody, we know. She wasn't the only one. There was another question about that, and it was, let me just I have a lot of these audio clips, as you can see. There was another question about whether or not she's just going to do Donald Trump's bidding. And it was regarding Kash Patel, because Kash Patel, that's the other thing they don't like. Pam Bondi is flawless. Pam Bondi has not a flaw in her resume. She's totally qualified. She's done the job for the state of Florida, the third largest economy in the country. She knows what she's doing. She doesn't have any blemishes on her record. She's going to get bipartisan support for sure. She's not Matt Gaetz, which is all really most of them care about. And so they really can't say anything negative about her. So what do? They talk about Kash Patel, because as FBI director, Kash Patel would answer to Pam Bondi. So Sheldon Whitehouse again asked her, hey, what do you do about this Kash Patel guy?
Yes.
Would you have hired someone into the Florida Attorney General's office who you knew had an enemies list?
Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash. But I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department, Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Thank you.
That we make public. I'm mad. Look, I have an enemies list. I have an enemies list, Greg. Can you milk me? Sorry. But I mean, I imagine, look, not an enemies list, but there's got to be a person of interest. That's what they call it. Oh, I don't have an enemies list. I do have a list called persons of interest, and I'll be investigating them for sure. But the FBI, look, they act like the FBI isn't broken. They act like the FBI isn't corrupt. He's saying Kash Patel has an enemies list. You know who else does? Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray has an enemies list. In fact, I have a copy of it right here. Let me show you. Here we go. Let me just, I have a copy of Christopher Wray's enemies list right here. It also happens to be Merrick Garland's, because, Merrick Garland is the Attorney General. I have, here's their enemies list. Check it out. Donald Trump. That's it. That's the enemies list. If you go in there, I imagine on Merrick Garland's, dartboard, there's a picture of Donald Trump. I imagine that there are whole departments, and their job was get Trump. Get Trump. That was the role of the DOJ. That was their entire enemies list. It was a list of one. And they're asking Pam Bondi, does Kash Patel have? It wasn't, you know what? In fact, it was, I take that back. It wasn't just Donald Trump. There were other people they didn't like either. They didn't like parents that were talking back against COVID violations or COVID restrictions in their kids' schools. There were parents that were arguing about CRT in the kids' schools. There were Catholics who, for whatever, they just don't like In fact, Mike Lee from Utah asked her about that and said, are these the kinds of things that you're going to continue when you're the Attorney General?
We have seen over the last few years the weaponization of government, specifically within the Department of Justice, against law-abiding Americans. Law-abiding Americans whose offense was something along the lines of, them exercising their constitutional rights, ranging from Catholics attempting to practice their faith, to parents showing up to school board meetings, to people showing up to engage in peaceful protesting outside of abortion clinics. As Attorney General, how will you prevent the weaponization of the Department of Justice against Americans?
And Senator, you just gave the classic example of what's been happening regarding the weaponization. Going after parents at a school board meeting has got to stop. For practicing your religion, sending informants into Catholic churches must stop.
Yeah, and that is something that is true. There's a lot more than just the Donald Trump stuff. There's the conservatives, the Republicans, the January 6th protesters, all of these things must stop. Ted Cruz went on a tirade. I think Ted Cruz did this on purpose. Ted Cruz, when it was his time to do his testimony, he wasn't there. And I know he did this because he got the last word before lunch. So Ted Cruz was like in the bathroom, whatever. He was cruising around. Who knows? So they came to him last, and he came in. It was Mazie Hirono. Oh, who, by the way, I have one more Mazie. You guys want to hear one more Mazie Hirono clip? If you want to hear one more Mazie Hirono clip, if you want to hear Pam Bondi sticking it to Mazie Hirono one more time, just hit yes. Put yes in the chat. You know what? In fact, it's save your strength. I'm going to do it anyway. Here is Pam Bondi calling out Mazie Hirono about the border.
During the election, during the campaign. First, are the felons convicted of breaking into the Capitol on January 6th hostages or patriots, quoting Trump, as President-elect Trump has said repeatedly? Do you agree with his characterization of the felons that I referred to?
I am not familiar with that statement, Senator.
I just familiarized you with that statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not familiar with it, Senator.
Okay, no answer. He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement, but what I can tell you is I went to the border a few months ago. I went to Yuma, Arizona, and what I saw at that border was horrific, Senator. It was horrific.
Ms. Bondi,
I went to a rape crisis center.
That is
If I could
not my
finish,
question.
I went to a rape crisis center. Well, I'm not familiar with the statement, but I went to a rape crisis center. I met with Border Patrol agents. I'm sure you've been to the
Ms.
border
Bondi,
as well. So
I
you
want to
could
get
answer
to my
that.
next question.
I don't think Mazie Hirono's. She hasn't been to the border, unless the border is the name of a Tex-Mex bar in Washington D.C. She hasn't been to the border. But anyway, Ted Cruz. So Ted Cruz, he does this strategic thing where he leaves when it's his time so that he gets to have the last word, which, by the way, I have to remember that. Somebody make a note. Somebody remind me that when I'm on my congressional committee that I need to have the last word so I can come back in. I have to go to the bathroom and then come back in later. I'm excited about that. Anyway, here's Ted Cruz laying into the Democrats, Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, the rest of them, and of course Pam Bondi saying, oh, and don't forget, not only did they attack Donald Trump, not only did they try to prosecute Donald Trump, not only did they bring all these ridiculous court cases against Donald Trump, but they also tried to kill him.
The Biden-Harris White House came along. And in the last 4 years, we've seen Donald Trump indicted and prosecuted not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 separate times.
And 2 assassination attempts, Senator.
I have to say, Javert from Les Mis would be chagrined at the efforts of Democrats to do anything possible to take him down. And I believe the real target in this was not President Trump, but it was the American people, that these prosecutions were brought because partisan prosecutors were terrified that the American people would do exactly what they did in November of 2024 and vote to reelect Donald J. Trump.
By 77.3%. Million Americans, 77.3 million Americans.
Will you commit every day as Attorney General to follow the law, to follow the Constitution, to uphold the rule of law without favor and without regard to the partisan position of any criminal defendant?
Yes, Senator.
That's what we should all expect from.
All right, and that's it. And that was the last word before lunch. I think they're back now with the second round of questioning. We can pop in just a minute. But that was it. Also, I didn't peg Ted Cruz as a musical theater fan. Javert from Les Mis would be horrified. I didn't peg him as a musical theater guy. But everyone can surprise you from time to time. Look, there's other, like I said, and Pam Bondi's just one. There's a whole bunch of people. Whole bunch of great picks that Donald Trump has made, along with his transition team, Susie Wiles and the like, and Don Jr. They all got in there. They've been meeting at Mar-a-Lago. They've been going through the files. They've been looking at all these people, and they said, Pam Bondi, she's the one. Pete Hegseth, he's the guy. Marco Rubio, from Lil Marco to Secretary of State. John Radcliffe for CIA. I want to play you the John Radcliffe stuff before we get to the Rubio stuff, because John Radcliffe, IMO, in my humble opinion, is underrated, and the CIA position is not highlighted as much as it should be, because Central Intelligence, this is where all the intelligence comes in, from Middle East Check, we got it from Mexico. Check, we got it from Russia, China. It's all coming in. All the things we're hearing, the online squabbling, the chatter on the dark web, all that stuff. It comes into Central Intelligence. They put it in their computers and they go, and it pops out. You know, like in Willy Wonka, where he goes, I'm now telling the computer I want it to tell me where the Wonka bars are located. And then the computer goes, that would be cheating. It's like that, only the CIA computer says, oh, there's a potential threat here. Go neutralize it. Central Intelligence is very important. And John Radcliffe knows that it cannot be, of all the CIA, the FBI, they cannot be partisan. And he wanted to point out that, oh yeah, in the past, the very recent past, the CIA was partisan. Maybe you recall.
In 2020, when a chairman of an intelligence committee misrepresented that a laptop owned by then candidate Biden's son was somehow a Russian intelligence operation, and 51 former intelligence officials used the imprimatur of IC authority to go along with that, I stood in the breach. I stood alone and told the American people the truth about that. So I think my record in terms of speaking truth to power and defending the intelligence community and its good work is very clear. And what I can assure you is those types of instances, if I'm in that position as CIA director and have to do that again, as uncomfortable as that can be, to be accused, the truth will ultimately defend itself. And I think that intelligence will as well.
They're all petrified. Everybody's scared. All these Democrats, and they should be, they're all worried that Donald Trump is going to come after them. That Donald Trump is setting up an army of MAGA loyalists in the Justice Department and the FBI and the CIA, and their only goal is going to be to target those people that targeted Donald Trump. Imagine the hypocrisy. We don't want you coming after us for coming after Donald Trump. We want to make sure that you don't prosecute us for prosecuting Donald Trump. We want to make sure that you don't try to put us away just because we're your political enemies, just like we tried to put away our political enemy, President Donald Trump. It's ridiculous. I mean, this is what Washington, D.C. is about. This is what the Democrat Party is doing. They're spending all this time and all this effort and all this questioning trying to protect themselves from the same kind of weaponization that they've been inflicting on the opposite party for years now. And John Radcliffe is like, look, you don't have to worry about me. When all these other liars got together, when 51 of them signed a letter and said, this is Russian disinformation, CIA spooks and CIA chiefs and FBI agents and national security advisors, when all these people, when you rounded them all up and said, hey, we got a problem. We got a problem. The stoner kid, the crackhead left his computer at a place in Delaware, and now they've got it, or Maryland, or wherever the hell it was, and now they've got it. They've got it. They've got all the emails. We need you to say it was Russian disinformation. And the 51 people are probably like, that would be lying. They're like, you better do it or else Donald Trump's going to come after you and put you away. All right, fine. John Radcliffe said, no, this is not Russian disinformation. This is just information. It's not Russian disinformation. It's American information. The information we got from Hunter Biden's laptop is that Joe Biden and his family had some interesting dealings. There's a lot of money coming through. There's somebody called the big guy who's getting 10%. And oh yeah, there's a lot of nude photos of Hunter Biden with whores and smoking crack and lining up M&Ms on his erect manhood. All this stuff is going on. And none of it was fake. It was all real, which thank God, because what kind of a demented person would think about the laptop? What kind of demented Russians would be sitting around? I mean, that's a lot of vodka you got to drink to come up with the kind of stuff that we found on that laptop. And John Radcliffe said, I'm not that guy. I'm the guy that told you the truth. Remember that. No matter what. Marco Rubio from Florida, senator for now. Which, by the way, I want to know, I'm so curious as to who our next senator is going to be here in Florida. And I have to imagine, TikTok, we've got to have an announcement soon. I know that there's a lot going on in Florida. There's a special session of the Senate coming back. And we know that because, Ron DeSantis just called back a special session of the Senate. And he did that because he knows that Donald Trump's going to need help. He's going to sign all these executive orders. He's going to shut down the border. He's going to start bringing in ICE and Tom Homan to start deporting people. Great. That's all fantastic. That's got to happen. That's all well and good. But at the same time, he's going to need help on the local level. So he's called he's called a special session to start on the 27th here in the state of Florida. Some people in the special session are not that happy about it, but it doesn't matter. That's your job, and that's what you got to do. But Marco Rubio is not going to be the senator. I wish we knew who would be. Anyway, we'll find out in due time. He was in front of his committee meeting, and I'm going to be honest with you, he had a very good opening statement until, of course, it was interrupted by protesters. Here's how he began.
Let me just say it's a bit surreal to be on this side of the room, but you all look very distinguished, and I wanted you to know that.
Yeah. We know that.
In the 249-year history of our republic, there's only been 71 other Americans who have served in the role and the position that President Trump has now nominated me to occupy. And I want to thank him for his confidence. And it's an incredible honor.
By the way, I'd like to point out that 71 secretaries of state, the first one was Thomas Jefferson. The newest one is going to be Marco Rubio of Cuban descent. I just want you to remember that next time they tell you that Donald Trump is a racist. But he's distinguished and he's honored, and he says, look, I appreciate it's weird being here. And then he said, then the protesters came in.
At the end of the Second World War, the United States was, in the words of then Secretary of State, tasked with creating an order, a world order, a free half, as he quote in his quote, out of chaos, without blowing to pieces. Without blowing the whole of the world into pieces in the process. And in the decades that followed, that global order served us quite well. Americans' incomes rose and communities flourished. Alliances emerged in the Indo-Pacific and Europe that led to the emergence of stability and democracy and prosperity in these regions.
We've had forevermore ever since. Little Marco, keep your hands.
Back to order.
Okay, now, by the way, and I'd like to point out, my favorite part about this whole clip is, hang on, let me play it here. My favorite part of this whole clip is how at the end, when they drag the guy out, this is so commonplace and so expected that nobody freaks out. Nobody gets excited. They all just sit there. There's these young girls, these women in the front with their, they're just sitting there with their legs crossed, and they look over. They glance over at the guy screaming and yelling. The cops drag him out. Then they just glance back to the chairman. This is what happens all the time. And how do these people get in, by the way? I know it's an open public forum. I know it's the Capitol building. I know it's the People's House, but we can't vet these folks before they come in. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Everyone knows that they're just being loudmouths and they're not harmful at all. But still, it cracks me up at how much of a non-issue it is. And then they just, gavel back to order. But then here's Marco Rubio, and he said, look, I want to thank God. And this is important too, because we've now had two back-to-back. Yesterday, Pete Hegseth, glory to God, and his glory be done. His will be done was what Pete Hegseth said in his. And here's Marco Rubio basically praying in the Capitol building in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I'm sorry, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, talking about how God is amazing and has blessed him and how he seeks to do his good.
I also want to acknowledge all the blessings that God has bestowed upon me in my life. My faith is critical and it's something I will lean and rely on heavily in the months that are ahead. In a tumultuous world where, in my faith, we are called to promote the cause of peace and the common good. And that task has gotten harder than it's ever been. And I will rely heavily on my faith and pray for God's blessings, that he will provide me the strength, the wisdom, and the courage to do what is right in these tenuous moments.
I will lean on my faith. I will lean into my faith. When I have questions about what to do, I'm not going to go to the president. I'm not going to go to the Senate. I'm not going to go to Congress. I'm going to go to God. I'm going to pray. I'm going to lean into my faith. This is something we have not seen or heard in a very, very, very long time. This is not something that is typical. It's definitely not typical of the Joe Biden administration. It's definitely not typical of what's been going on now. I mean, what Anthony Blinken Do you think Anthony Blinken, and I'll have to go back and check, but somebody show me a clip where Anthony Blinken said, I thank God for my blessings while he was getting confirmed, and I will lean into my faith and trust in God that I will be able to serve my country. Anything like that. Show me one time where Anthony Blinken, the current Secretary of State, mentioned the good Lord, Jesus Christ, faith, anything. I guarantee it's never happened. Now, not only are we restoring good American constitutional values to our administration, but also good Christian values and God. Then he got into a couple. They asked him about, here's the big things that you need to know about if you're the Secretary of State. You need to know about China, and you need to know about Ukraine. You need to know how to stop the wars that we're in and keep new wars from starting. You need to know how to make us dominant again in economics, in the military, a global superpower. That's what we need. And those are the two biggest things we have. We can't start any new wars. We got to end the ones we have. And China is breathing down our necks. What are you going to do about it? Well, here's what Marco Rubio said about Ukraine.
It's unacceptable. There's no doubt about it. But this war has to end. And I think it should be the official policy of the United States that we want to see it end. Now, what that master plan looks like it's going to be hard work. This is not going to be an easy endeavor, but it's going to require bold diplomacy. And my hope is that it could begin with some ceasefire. And in order to achieve objectives like the one that needs to occur in Ukraine, it is important for everyone to be realistic. There will have to be concessions made by the Russian Federation, but also by the Ukrainians, and the United States lend itself there. It's also important that there be some balance.
All right, so he's saying something that I don't think people really realize. And this is another reason why I think that these Senate meetings are so fantastic, these confirmations. He said it should be the official policy of the United States of America that the war in Ukraine should end. Meaning, it's not the official policy of the United States of America that the war should end. It's not the official policy of the United States of America that any war should end. In fact, if you look at the actions of the Joe Biden administration, if you look at the actions of what's been going on over the last 4 years, if you look at the way Joe Biden and the Senate and Congress has been doling out cash, they're like Hunter Biden at the strip club when it comes to Ukraine. Just tossing Benjamins all over the place. That is not the official policy of the United States of America under the Joe Biden administration that the war in Ukraine should end. They're not seeking an end to it. Ask Joe Biden, what have you done to end the war in Ukraine? Well, don't ask him because he barely understands what room he's in at any given moment. But ask anyone in the administration, what have we done? Is it the official policy that the war should end? No. Not when they're giving another $500 million just this week to Ukraine to continue fighting. If you're giving people money to continue fighting, you don't want it to end. It's that simple. If you wanted it to end, you'd stop giving them money for fighting. You'd say, you got to sit down at the table. You got to figure it out. You got to come up with some balanced concessions. Russia's got to come up with concessions. Ukraine has to come up with concessions. The war should end. It's not our official policy. Marco Rubio says it should be. As far as China, he gave a lengthy answer on China, but I'm going to play it because it's good.
First of all, do you agree that the PRC is the biggest threat that we face as the United States?
The Communist Party of China that leads the PRC, is the most potent and dangerous near-peer adversary this nation has ever confronted. They have elements that the Soviet Union never possessed. They are a technological adversary and competitor, an industrial competitor, an economic competitor, a geopolitical competitor, a scientific competitor now, in every realm. It's an extraordinary challenge. It's one that I believe will define the 21st century. When they write the book about the 21st century, there's going to be some chapters in there about Putin. There's going to be some chapters in there about some of these other places. But the bulk of that book about the 21st century will be not just about China, but about the relationship between China and the United States and what direction it went. And I think you're alluding to it in your statement. I know you may have another question. I don't want to eat up all your time, but I do want to say this. The Chinese believe that the United States are a great power in inevitable decline and that they are an inevitable rise. Now, they already are. They're going to be a rich and powerful country, and we're going to have to deal with them. The danger is that because of our own actions, in many cases, a dangerous imbalance is built up in that relationship. We allowed them for years to pretend that they were some developing countries, so we should allow them to continue to cheat on trade and commerce. We should allow them to continue to expand. They lied about not militarizing and populating island chains in the South China Sea and the like. We allowed them for years before we got serious about it to conduct grotesque human rights violations against Uyghur Muslims as an example. One of the most horrifying things happening on the planet. And for years, no one talked about it, which, by the way, not just has a human rights component to it, it allows them to use slave labor to produce goods that, at the expense of the rest of the world. Talk about not just a horrific humanitarian crisis, but an unfair trade practice as well. We've allowed them to get away with things. And frankly, the Chinese did what any country in the world would do given these opportunities. They took advantage of it. And so I think now we're dealing with the ramifications of it. I agree 100% what you said, but I remind you, and I remind everyone, I guess I want to make this point, that much of what we need to do to confront China is here at home. It's not just abroad, it's also here at home. We have to rebuild our domestic industrial capacity, and we have to make sure that the United States is not reliant on any single other nation.
China is taking advantage of the United States of America because the United States of America weakened itself. That's what he's saying, and he's right, 100%. A weak leadership at home, a weak United States of America makes for a weak rest of the world, and it emboldens our enemies, and our enemies are China right now. And Marco Rubio understands that. He goes, look, we've got to start at home. China's not doing anything that any other country wouldn't do. If we saw a weaker country, we'd take advantage of them too. In fact, that's what we do. That's what look at what we did to Canada. Donald Trump saw Canada, he saw Trudeau, he saw that he was weak, he saw that Canadians were sick and tired of him, so he belittled him and he made fun of him and he called him governor of the 51st state. And what happened? The Canadians threw him out because he was weak. Donald Trump took advantage of a situation. He didn't want to deal with Trudeau. He needed somebody who was going to be serious. He needed somebody that he could deal with. And he knew, and he was like, look, you're going to get tariffed. You're going to get 25% tariffs because you've been taking advantage of us and no longer. Donald Trump is rebalancing the country. That's why he started the External Revenue Service. He's rebalancing everything. He's getting us back to a place where it's even Steven. We're not even at zero level. We're in the negative. Once we get back to zero level, then it's really going to get fun. Then it's really going to get fun. Listen, I got to wrap it up. But before we go, I would be remiss if I did not play this whole Jasmine Crockett. Oh, you know what? Wait a minute. I scratched that. We'll get that in a minute. Adam Schiff at the moment is interviewing Pam Bondi. Oh, I kind of want to see part of that. All right, hold on. Let me go here real quick. Let me go to TV. There we go. Let's watch this real quick. I want to see. This is Senator Adam Schiff. I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, he's a senator. Yeah. Watch Senator Adam Schiff real quick here, and then I'll tell you about Jasmine Crockett.
In Trump versus United States, held the president has absolute immunity to commit crimes in certain core areas of the president's responsibility. One of those core areas is the Justice Department. So in a breathtakingly dangerous and irresponsible decision, Justice Roberts and the majority held the president could commit crimes using the Department of Justice and be immune from prosecution. Justice Sotomayor correctly said this new immunity lies about like a loaded weapon. So the fear and the concern we have is that the incoming president will use that loaded weapon, that immunity, to commit crimes through the Department of Justice. And for that reason, it is all the more important that we have an attorney general who has the independence, the strength, the intestinal fortitude to say no to the president when it is necessary. So my first set of questions has to do whether you have the independence to say no when you must say no. And you can say this is hypothetical, but it is not hypothetical. So let me start with one very specific non-hypothetical. The president has said Jack Smith should go to jail. Will you investigate Jack Smith?
Senator, I haven't seen the file. I haven't seen the investigation. I haven't looked at anything. It would be irresponsible of me to make a commitment regarding anything without, you're a long practicing attorney, without looking at a file.
So you would need a
Period.
factual predicate to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
Not a summary by you sitting here. Yes, sir.
And not a summary by the president either, right?
Absolutely.
So a summary by the president or his desire to investigate Jack Smith would not be enough for you to open an investigation of Jack Smith, is that right?
I will look at the facts and evidence in any case. And
sitting here today,
Senator, 72% of Americans
I only have
have
7
lost
minutes.
faith in the Department of Justice.
Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Sitting here today, yes or no?
She hasn't seen the file, dude.
Senator, I will look at the facts and the circumstances.
You can't answer that
anything
question.
that's brought to me.
You're not a part of the department yet. There's no worry about divulging
I'm sitting
law
here as a
enforcement
nominee.
sensitive information. So just tell us,
I'm
are you
sitting here as
aware?
a nominee.
Just tell us, are you aware of a factual predicate to investigate Jack Smith? Yes or no?
Senator, what I'm hearing on the news
Are
is
you aware of
horrible.
a?
Do I know if he committed a crime? I have not looked
You seem reluctant to answer a simple question. Let me ask you a different simple question. The president also wants to jail Liz Cheney. Sitting here today, are you aware of any factual basis to investigate Liz Cheney? Yes or no?
Senator, that's a hypothetical, and I'm not going to answer that
No,
question.
it's not hypothetical. I'm asking you, sitting here today, whether you are aware of a factual predicate to investigate Liz Cheney.
Senator, no one
Based
has
on what
asked
you
me
know.
to investigate Liz Cheney. That is a
The
hypothetical.
president has called for it publicly. You are aware of that, aren't you?
No one has asked me to investigate.
But the president
Liz.
has
We're
called-
also
the
worried about
president-
Liz Cheney,
the
Senator.
president has
You know what
called
we
for
should
this-
be worried about?
Ms. Bondi,
the
please
crime rate
answer
in
my
California
questions.
right now
You are
is
aware,
through the roof.
Ms. Bondi,
Your
my-
robberies
Ms.
are
Bondi,
87%
my
higher
question-
than the national
My question
average.
is this.
That's what I
My
want to
question
be
is
focused
this.
on, Senator.
Do you have the
if I'm
power to
confirmed
say
as
no to the
Attorney
president?
General.
And what you're suggesting today by your non-answer is you don't have the independence to say no to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It also requires you, if you're going to be a good attorney general, to be able to tell hard truths to the president. So my questions now are, can you tell hard truths to the president? So let me start with an easy truth that you could speak to the president. Can you tell us,
Here it is,
can you
the
tell
election.
him that Donald Trump lost the 2020
I
election?
told you.
Can you say that? Do you have the independence to say that? Do you have the gravitas, the stature, the intestinal fortitude to say, Donald Trump, you lost the 2020 election? Can you tell us that here today?
Senator, what I can tell you is I will never play politics. You're trying to engage me in a gotcha. I
No,
won't
I'm just
do it.
asking you a simple
I
question.
won't play
If you can
politics
speak truth
with any
to
ongoing
power.
investigation,
So let me ask you another.
like you did
let me-
leaking your
let me ask
colleague
you-
Devin Nunes's memo.
If you can't answer the question, let me ask you a different, what should be a simple truth, not a hard one. Was there massive fraud affecting the result of the 2020 election, yes or no?
Senator, I'm glad you asked that question. If you'll let me answer what I saw in Pennsylvania.
No, I asked a simple question about massive
No,
fraud.
I won't let you answer the question.
No, I know you want to answer a different question, but my question is, can you tell us whether there was massive fraud affecting the results of the 2020 election, yes or no? Was there
I
or
can
was there
tell
not?
you what I saw when I went
That's
as an
not my,
advocate
that's
to
not
the
my question.
campaign.
So you can't answer that question.
Why can't she
You
answer-
can't speak that.
She's not
even
gonna talk about
easy
massive
truth to
fraud.
us, let alone to the president. So let me ask you a different question. It will also be important that you give good advice to the president.
God, has
Are
his
you
7
prepared
minutes
to
not up
advise
yet?
the president not to pardon people who beat police officers?
Senator, as I said, the pardons are at the direction of the president. We will look and we will advise. I will look at every case on a case.
so you're
let me
looking-
finish on a case-by-case
Okay,
basis.
okay, good.
And I abhor violence to police officers.
Follow up with that. So will it be your advice to the president, Mr. President? I know you said you want to issue hundreds of pardons on day one. Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files
And
for
will
the
you be able to
pardons, as well
will
as
you
the
be able to
ongoing
review
investigation.
hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am
Of
asked
course you
to
won't.
look
So
at.
will you advise the
Hey,
president?
can I
will
answer
you-
the question?
Well, my question
I would
is-
have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen, I'm
hundreds
not
of
going to
cases on the first
mislead
day?
this body nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me ask
You
you
were
another question.
censured by
It will
Congress,
also-
Senator, for
it will
comments just
also-
like this that
it
are
will
so
also- It will also be important for you to be able to preserve
I'm glad she brought that
the
up.
records, the evidence of the department. Are you ready to commit that none of the evidence in the January 6th investigation will be destroyed under your watch?
Senator, I will follow the law. I will consult with ethical officials in the
Do you
department.
see any ethical basis to destroy evidence in the January 6th investigation? Then why can't you answer the question? Why can't you say, I commit to this committee, we will never destroy the evidence in the January 6th investigation? Why can't you give this committee and the American people that assurance?
Are you frightened because evidence was destroyed against President Trump that was false? Is that why you're
Why do
frightened
you have
now? I can't
difficulty?
believe this is even.
Why do you have difficulty answering that question?
I can't believe
Why
you're
do you have
asking such a
difficulty?
question.
Why do you have difficulty promising to preserve evidence at the Department of Justice. Why is that a difficult question?
I will follow the law.
It shouldn't be a difficult question.
Wow.
Thank you,
great.
Mr. Chairman. Ms. Bondi, I know that you are pleased that we are moving to the end of round
that was
one.
great.
And
that was great. I love that. I love that. Man, I love that Senator Schiff was there now that I think about it. That was fantastic. Should we watch more? I guess, man, look at that. Adam Schiff in the Senate. I was against it until today. And Pam Hunt, I love that she threw in there, you know, you were censured by the Congress for reckless behavior just like this. And man, that was really fun to watch. All right, real quick, let's get to Jasmine Crockett. Yesterday, Jasmine Crockett from Texas, who's like 12 years old and acts like it, got into a little kerfuffle with Nancy Mace from South Carolina, one of our faves. Listen to what happened she called Nancy Mace a child. And Nancy Mace was none too happy about it.
Somebody's campaign coffers really are struggling right now. So she's going to keep saying trans, so that people will feel threatened. And child, listen, I want y'all to tell me whether or
Do
not.
not call me a child. I am no child.
I want
Don't
to
even
find
start.
out
I am a grown
which
woman.
of those
I am 47 years
emails
old. I have broken
actually
more
have.
glass ceilings than you
Chairman,
ever
I
will.
am reclaiming my time.
You will not do that. I
Order.
am not a
Chairman,
child.
I am
not a
reclaiming
child.
my time.
If you want to take it outside,
Mr. Chairman, the committee is not in order.
Order.
Point of order.
Order.
Somebody's campaign.
She was. If you want to take it outside, is what Nancy. That was just. There's more to that we could get into with that, but like I said, I've been prattling on long enough, and we do have. Don't forget tonight, very exciting, Joe Biden and his farewell address to the nation, which we will bring you live. I'll probably start. I'm going to shoot it for a 7:30 start time. So that we can get a little, because I know there's going to be some stuff to talk about beforehand. We'll watch it all live together, which should be exciting. And then, of course, afterward, we'll break it all down for you. In the meantime, between now and then, swing on by Mark Kaye shop and grab yourself some Gulf of America stuff. This is great. The Gulf of America t-shirt, one of our hottest selling brands, one of our biggest items since the Matt Gaetz Boo All You Want t-shirt for Halloween a couple years ago. Gulf of America, it's coming. The Gulf of Mexico is going to be a something from the bike. It's going to be in the history books. From here on out, we're going to be known. We're going to be calling this body of water the Gulf of America, and we have it in light and dark. We have women's and men's. We've got V-necks. We've got hoodies. We've got, bears and cups and mugs and everything else you could want. Anything at all to celebrate the return of Donald Trump and, of course, to the return of an America First foreign policy. The Gulf of America, all this stuff can be found at markkaysshop.com. markkaysshop.com. And there is a coupon code. Don't forget the coupon code. It is Trump World. And it's right there at the top. You can find it right there at the top. It gets you 15% off your entire order. So if you're like, oh, I want to get a hoodie, I actually want to get 2 hoodies, you can, because both hoodies, you'll get 15% off of your total order. If you want to get, let's say what else you got. Let's say you want to get a Gulf of America bear, Gulfy, the official mascot, which, by the way, a lot of these people, you guys are scooping up Gulfy. He's so cute. Gulfy, the official Gulf of America mascot. If you want to get a Gulfy the bear, do it. Throw that in as well, because you're going to get 15% off everything. If you want to get a Donald Trump, if you want to get one of these fantastic hoodies or shirts, the long sleeve shirt, the Brighter Future long sleeve shirt with Donald Trump's iconic quote on it, America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before. Do that. Like I said, you're going to save 15% on your entire order. Trump World is the coupon code, and Mark Kaye shop is the place to go. And I'll tell you, the hottest seller we have right now is the hoodie. These dark mode hoodies are the hottest seller. This charcoal gray one, we've moved more of these than I think anything else. And it's got the red, the white, the blue. It's really stylish, and people are going to know when you wear it, they're going to stop and go, whoa, where'd you get that? They're going to love it. This is the kind of stuff that when you wear it, all the conservatives come out of the woodwork. Sure, so maybe 1 or 2 people are going to give you a look like Gulf of America. What's that? But the people that are in the know, they're going to know. And they're going to appreciate you. You're going to make a lot of friends. There's a tumbler, too. I know that the Stanleys are very popular. This is Stanley-ish. It's not an actual Stanley. It's Stanley-ish. It's a 40-ounce travel tumbler. It says Gulf of America on one side. It has the official Mark Kaye Saves the Republic logo on the other. In case you're wondering, hey, Mark, what's on the other side of that tumbler? That's what it is. And then, of course, we've also got Kayetriot gear. You know, we have Kayetriots that listen to this show every day from all over the globe, and we appreciate it. And maybe you want to go to the gym and show off your guns and let everybody know I'm a Kayetriot. Now you can. We've got Kayetriot men's. I forget. You know what? I never scroll down. I just stick on the thing at top. Mark Kaye. Oh, but this is great, by the way. This is the Mark Kaye Saves the Republic collection. I should wear this hoodie tomorrow. Every time I wear my white hoodie, first of all, it's comfy. This is the premium hoodie too. It's very comfortable. It's very thick. It's very warm. It's soft. And I always get a lot of compliments on it, and it looks good too. The Mark Kaye Signature Collection. This is our rope cap, which is very popular. A lot of folks like the signature rope cap. Again, 15% off of everything. All you have to do is use code TrumpWorld. So that's that. Go get yourself some stuff and then I'm gonna create a link for you so you can go ahead and get the notification set. But we will be back tonight. We'll be back tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time in preparation for Joe Biden's final farewell address. See ya. Wouldn't want to be ya. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. Address to the United States of America. And that is something that we've all been looking forward to for a very long time. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to set the notifications. Don't forget to like this thing, because we're going to keep bringing you information and entertainment and inspiration every single day. We want to make sure that you're armed and you're excited and you're ready to go. Because even though Donald Trump's coming back in 5 days, even though Joe Biden's on the way out, even though we're going to get Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi and Marco Rubio and a whole bunch of other great fighters into the administration, once they're there, that's when the fight begins. And we've all got to be prepared every single day to push back when we're pushed upon. We've got to be able to speak up and speak truth. And make sure that the media, they're hibernating. They haven't gone anywhere. They're coming back. They're going to come back with the lies and the deceit and the propaganda and all that stuff. And we've got to be ready. We've got to be ready to fight so that we can continue to save the Republic. Don't forget, it's coupon code Trump World for 15% off your entire order at Mark Kaye Shop. I will see you later tonight.